What's up everyone, welcome back to another drawing video, Drawing with the Nihongo Gamer. Still haven't decided on the title of the channel, but today's video I'm going to be talking while doing something kind of different. This is gesture drawing. And although the topic is kind of about gesture drawing, I don't really know enough about it to talk for 15 minutes intelligently about the actual art of doing it. But I think it is important to actually practice doing it every now and then. So as you know, I've been drawing various things, mostly mannequins, like box shapes and cylinders, boxes, and just basic mannequins, so I can get the idea of poses. But I think for me, the important thing is to practice distilling, a complicated form into basic shapes. Now, the shapes I'm actually drawing usually with mannequins, they're like cubic prisms and like cylindrical prisms. But really, it's not because that's actually what the bones look like underneath. I'm still studying anatomy as well. But for me, it's more like, how do you take something complicated and break it down into something simple so that I can work on overall shapes and proportions before I fill in more details. Of course, it's kind of complicated because I think it's tempting to think that there's a correct way to approach art, but the thing is, plenty of really famous artists, they really self-taught themselves how to do stuff, and maybe their style is actually more unique because they didn't study the traditional way. It's certainly true for music. A lot of people who studied jazz or instead of studying straight classical music, they have a style and compositional mindset that you rarely find from a classical musician. And I'm pretty sure that the same thing goes for art. Yes, there are definitely more efficient ways to learn if you do the traditional methods, like doing your anatomy first and then doing your gesture drawing, and I think we've talked about this briefly before. But for me, I'm trying to build upon what skills I have built organically myself and supplement them with more formal methods that I've seen in books and YouTube videos, among others. I think one YouTube video channel that I'm sure all of you know is one called Proco. And actually, before I discovered Proco, I didn't even know really what gesture drawing was. I didn't even know really that gesture drawing existed. But once I did try gesture drawing, even though I wasn't very good at it, and as you can see, I still haven't really mastered it, it is kind of addictive to see a complicated shape being represented in as few lines as possible. Of course, you can go much further with the gesture drawing and have a more fleshed out gesture drawing, but I do like the idea of maybe limiting yourself to something like 4 lines or only 5 lines. And how do you prevent it from just looking like a stick figure? How do you actually show someone some idea of what the original pose looked like using a very small set of lines? So one thing I do really want to do before we continue is kind of apologize for my croaky voice. I have slightly caught a cold from the other people in my house. I fortunately haven't come down with a cold as hard as everyone else in the house, but I have got the croaky voice thing going on. And also, it's like 11 p.m. right now while I'm recording this. So I've just been too busy taking care of the kid, babysitting, and then trying to do my job at night, kind of doing it as a night shift for my normal work. And then on top of that, launching a new YouTube channel, which I think some of you will know about. I've launched a new talk show style YouTube channel where I can do things more I don't know if the word is introspective, but more thoughtful, spending more time just thinking deeply about things and basically building off my while I'm making coffee series of videos. So that's a quick explanation of why my voice is really croaky. So maybe you dislike it, but actually, in a way, I don't know, sometimes I like listening to people who have quite a croaky voice. It gives them a little bit of a character. Hopefully that's what's happening here. So Getting back to gesture drawing, though, the reason I'm doing this actually, right, I mean, I've literally just recorded this before I'm doing this recording for the voice. And again, it's been a long day of work and then a long day of trying to sort out personal things. And then finally, at about 10:30 at night, I've got time to practice some gesture drawing. But the topic of gesture drawing isn't just the art of getting better at art. I feel like gesture drawing also kind of helps you get better at motivating yourself to actually be productive. And the reason is, I mean, of course, there are many reasons. One of the main reasons is that conceptually, it shouldn't be a large amount of work. In fact, I think if you do a gesture drawing and it's been a lot, and it ends up being like a huge effort and a lot of work, then you're probably doing it wrong. I mean, it's difficult to say whether there is a right or a wrong, but to get the most out of gesture drawing, I think you're really practicing being efficient with time and with your mind, looking at something, first distilling it into its most basic, action lines and movements in your head, and then trying to put that on paper, again, in a more physically efficient way, usually with a time limit. So as you can see right now, I'm doing 90-second gesture drawings, but you can do like a 10-minute gesture drawing or a 5-minute gesture drawing. And it's funny because I think it's tempting to want to do like a 10-minute gesture drawing first and then whittle it down to something harder, like a short gesture drawing. But now that I've been doing quite a few of them, I think it makes more sense to do it the opposite way. Do a really fast gesture drawing so that you don't bog yourself down in trying to make it look like a proper figure drawing. When you've got a time constraint and when you've got a number of line constraints, then you actually kind of make the barrier of entry easier. So easier to get into figure drawing, easier to get into gesture drawing, but also just easier to get into drawing in general. I think probably the only reason I was able to record this video today at all after the I don't know if this, I keep using the word palaver, I don't even know if I use it correctly, but after the palaver of getting through my day job and then also sorting out personal stuff and family stuff, and then finally at 10:30 at night like, okay, you know what, now I want to work on the YouTube channel one of 4 YouTube channels, and I'm like, am I going to record a new video? Am I going to plan a video that I'm going to make tomorrow? Or am I going to do some drawing practice? Or am I just going to like postpone all of it and just play some video games? And many times when it gets to something like 10:30, you don't really have a solid 2 hours before the day ends. You've only got really 1 hour because it takes you like 15-20 minutes to get ready for bed, brush your teeth and all that. I don't brush my teeth for 15 minutes, but have a glass of water, clear a number of things up, make sure that you've, done all the right, sent all the right messages and emails before the day ends and deadlines and all that. So it takes time, and I often find like before I try to go to bed, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do my work until 12 o'clock and then I'll go to sleep. But you don't really go to sleep immediately. It takes like half an hour. You end up going to sleep at 12:30, but more often like 1 a.m. It's like, what? I stopped playing video games at 12 p.m. so I could go to sleep, and I'm still awake, and it's 1 a.m. What happened? So what I'm trying to say when it comes to gesture drawing is that what really helped with gesture drawing is that even though I only had this 10:30 to 12 p.m. session to do something, I thought, well, even if I don't have time to record a voiceover and actually chat with you guys after the drawing's done, I know for sure that this exercise will only take 15 minutes. Like, no matter what happens, I can't get too bogged down in the details. I can't become too obsessed with whether I got the proportions right on the body, because it's such a specific exercise. Whittle this figure into a figure drawing, a gesture drawing and do it now. You really don't have any choice because this website, Pose Maniacs, which I've been using predominantly in the most recent videos, it's got a timer. No matter what you want to do, it's just going to move on to the next drawing after 90 seconds anyway. The default setting is actually 30 seconds. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe I'll get better at gesture drawing if I just skip past these 90-second drawings and go back to something more, I don't want to say demanding. It's the opposite of being demanding. It's demanding that you just get on with it and do it. But the activity itself shouldn't be more demanding or pressing on your mind. One thing I will say that I've found difficult with gesture drawing, and you've probably noticed it as while you've been watching this video, is that although I'm not really worried about the proportions and the lengths of the limbs or anything right now. What I do find confusing is how some people can do a gesture drawing and then continue the gesture drawing into a proper figure without having to erase lines. And what I find difficult is, for example, I've drawn a line here for this character who is doing a headstand, some kind of weird headstand. And I've drawn a line of action to represent the curvature of the upper torso. I've drawn a U shape for the buttock area, I suppose, the rear end, the gluteus maximus area. But for the curvature of the upper torso, I've used this one C curve, and I've actually specifically not put it in the middle of the body. I've put it running along where I think the spine goes. So it's not following the contour of the spine, it's the action line of the torso, but I've put it on the spine. And I don't feel like many people really talk about this, which is why I find it why I imagine it's difficult for a large number of people to make the jump from a gesture drawing to a figure drawing, because people do it very naturally and they figure out how to do it in themselves. But when they make video tutorials, they don't say, I'm now drawing the line of action, but I'm drawing it along the curvature of the spine, or I'm drawing this gesture of the leg with two C curves, but I'm drawing it along the contour of the top of the leg. Because if you draw it along the top of the leg, then later you can add the contour of the back of the leg and give it a little bit of shape. So you've got the gesture of the leg, but you've also got some contour on the back of the leg to give it some volume, which helps it, when you're adding more detail and fleshing it out, make it a more full figure drawing as opposed to just a gesture drawing. Well, I'm getting carried away talking about the specifics of it, but as you can see, I'm not a master of it. But what's really cool about gesture drawing is that even if you're not a master of it, you can make use of it to get back into drawing. So if you're like me and you find it very easy to come up with excuses to not draw. In fact, we were just talking about not having enough time to draw in the previous video. I can find excuses all the time, and it's often things like not having enough time, but for me, probably more often than not having enough time is I make some crazy excuse that I don't have enough motivation, and then I'm like, oh yeah, but I just can't get myself motivated to do it. But again, like in the previous video, often I think the case is just that because I don't like to admit my actual level, my ability when it comes to drawing, I make the excuse that I'm actually just not motivated to do it, when actually I just don't want to draw. Even if I had, I don't know, plenty of sugary drinks right beforehand, I still wouldn't feel motivated to draw, because it's clearly, no matter how good a mood I'm in, I'm not gonna make myself draw if I believe in the back of my mind that it's going to be bad. Oh, just going back to the topic of where to draw these contours versus where to draw these lines of action. I've tried here to draw a line of action, but running along the front of the body. And then I've added other contour. I've got drawn these C curves, which I believe are gesture lines along the back, the bend of the back. And then I've got one C curve along the, I don't know what it's called, the body's left side to show that there's a less, a not bending gesture along the front of the body. But anyway, as you can see, I'm still kind of not 100% sure when it comes to these things. And that's fine, because the benefit here is I'm really feeling the discipline. Turn on the website, click the button, and for 15 minutes, practice. And even if I don't know how it's meant to be done before I do it, I walk out of it thinking, now I have questions. Now I know what to look up. And I was really motivated to look up some tutorials and actually go back and revisit the tutorials that I've already seen before of people gesture drawing and seeing if I can maybe understand more what they were talking about now that I've actually tried it more. Anyway, it's just a short video to talk about gesture drawing and how it's been benefiting me and how I think it can benefit you if you're kind of afraid to pick up your pencil and draw. At least if you use this website, you're stuck 15 minutes and you know that it's absolutely definitely over after that. And also, the point is not to make a good looking drawing, because you kind of can't. With only 5 lines, for example, or with only 90 seconds for each drawing, you kind of physically can't turn it into a good drawing. You're just kind of stuck. And that way you're like forced to focus on only the action of distilling a complicated form into its gesture. And I don't know, just sounds cool, but it's also really, really fun to do. I hope you've found this kind of motivating, and if you've been finding it difficult to pick up a pencil and actually do some drawing this week, try doing exactly what I've just done here and follow along with the video. Maybe watch it, listen to it again. That's all for today. I'll see you guys in the next drawing video. Laters.